afternoon, everyone, or whatever time it is, wherever you happen to be. My name is Bill Bass, and my title is I'm an innovation coordinator in the Parkway School District in St. Louis, Missouri. I'll put up my title slide in just a second, but I want to welcome you to my session about media literacy in the digital age and for this Google Education On Air event. There's a lot of stuff just over the next couple hours today that you will be able to access and really spend some time with. So we have 30 minutes. There's a lot of information that I want to share with you, and I want to be sure that I had leave time at the end to answer any questions that I might be able to do for you. So as you are in here, if you are watching live, just be sure if you do have questions to share them with me in, right down below there. You're going to find the place to put those questions. And like I said, I will do my best to answer them based on my experience and based on the things that I do with kids in my own district and the way that I think about specifically media literacy and how that impacts the digital age. So to that end, let's go ahead and get started. As we think about today, what I want to share with you and what I really want to focus on is the fact that media is such a big part of our lives. And when we talk about media literacy, the thing is there's all kinds of literacies. Now, again, let me go back. My name is Bill Bass. Excuse me. I am from the Parkway School District in St. Louis, Missouri, and I am super excited to be here with you today. I am a certified innovator. I've done all the educator trainings. I'm a certified trainer with Google, and I have spent a good portion of my career talking about and using Google tools. And so today, as I think about what we're doing here, and what we're thinking about with media literacy, one of the things that I think is so great about Google, the internet, all the things that have come about over the last couple of years is that we have more access than we ever have before. And so first, just to get started, what I really want to think about with you is what is media literacy? And so when you think about media literacy, now there's a good chance that you have plenty of your own definitions. You have thought about this, especially if you are like me. I'm a former English teacher. I spent most of my career in the classroom, and I am looking at how to go about really finding and working with media with my students. So what is media literacy? Like I said before, there are tons of literacies out there. There are tons of ways to think about what it means to be literate in the digital age, but today, let's focus on media literacy specifically. So according to the Aspen Institute, now I want you to take note of the date here, it's 1992. According to the Aspen Institute, media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, interpret, and create media in a variety of forms. Okay, so in 1992, that's the way that we were thinking of media. Now, I would argue that we're looking at media in very much the same way now. Like it hasn't changed all that much. So let's take a look at another way to think of this. The Partnership for 21st Century Skills, and you find the URL right down there in the corner, really talks about this in terms of analysis and creation. And those are two aspects of media literacy. So one part of media literacy gives you the opportunity to analyze the media that comes to you. And truly, in education, that's what we focus a lot on. As we talk about media, as a former media teacher, as I talked about media and as I explored media with my kids, I wanted to teach them how to analyze. But on the other side of that, I also have to teach them how to create. And I also have to teach them how to go about and think through what it takes to create, as well as what it takes to understand the creation process. So it's not necessarily enough just to give, like in this case, a kid a camera and say, go to it, because we haven't taught them necessarily about all the components that go into building media. Now, that doesn't mean you know, I think that we have to learn just enough. We learn just enough to get us started, and then we learn what we need along the way. We don't have to talk to this particular student with the camera about f-stops and shutter speeds right from the get-go. We need to give them experience. And then as they need more information, we give them that as well. But we have to give them opportunities to create as well as opportunities to analyze. Because what it comes down to is if we want students to, honestly, it doesn't so much matter what they do in front of us in the classroom. If they're sitting in the classroom in front of us, we have all kinds of tools. We have our teacher toolkit that gives us the opportunity to really tell kids and cajole them and, work with them. But what happens when they walk out of the room? That's when it matters. That's when that media literacy component is important. So, Partnership for 21st Century Skills, when they thought about analyzing media, this is what they came up with. So there's 3 bullet points here, and I want you to really notice the bulleted or the bolded text. So understand both how and why media messages are constructed and for what purposes. So it's not enough just to be able to look at the media itself. It's the message that goes behind that. By the same token, then we have examine how individuals interpret messages differently. Getting to that empathy in the classroom. Values and points of view that are included or excluded. A lot of times it's as important to think about what's not there as what's there. And how can media influence beliefs and behaviors of the people that they are trying to reach? Excuse me. Going further now, then finally apply a fundamental understanding of the ethical and legal issues surrounding the access and use of media. So that goes into copyright and fair use and how we incorporate media into our lives, as well as the appropriate messages that we might want to be sending. So that's really focusing on analyzing. Now we get into the creating media products. So in the analysis, we understood the messages that go with it, but now we really have to focus on understanding and utilizing the most appropriate media creation tools. There's lots of tools out there. We all know that. You're going to hear about a ton of different tools over the course of the day, but understanding when it's appropriate to use specific media is super, super important, especially as kids are exploring and beginning to understand. The second bullet point there under creating media products is that we have to understand and effectively utilize the appropriate expressions and interpretations in diverse and multicultural environments. It is our messages, the way we send messages is super important to be able to reach our audience. Now, as a former English teacher, the reason that media kind of captured my attention was because it was all about story. And it was all about being able to tell my story and communicate my story or my information. Audience and purpose. Every time a student sits down to create media products, they need to be thinking about that audience and purpose the entire time, as well as understanding the appropriate medium. Okay, so now we've had 2 points of view. We've had the Aspen Institute. Now we have the Partnership for 21st Century Skills. Let's look at one more. Namely, talks about media literacy, and this is the National Media Literacy Organization, but they talk about it that we are empowering people to be critical thinkers and creative producers. That the literacy skills, the skills that go along with literacy in media have to do with the technology and the things that the skills that we do when we create anything. Okay, so as you think about media literacy, there are lots of different things that go into that, but each one of these organizations have brought forth their own spin on this, but they're all very similar. It's about critical thinking. It's all about the story. It's all about the way that you interact with not only the message, but also the medium. Okay, finally, the Common Core state standards also talk about analyzing media. Okay, now, regardless of whether you are a Common Core state or whether you believe in the Common Core. One of the things that's unique about this particular statement in the Common Core is it directly talks about, in that last line there, print and non-print text in media forms old and new. And that's a switch from the language that we've used over the past 20 years when we're talking about media. We talked about it in very traditional terms. At one point, truly, I used to teach my kids what the parts of a newspaper were. Now I don't do that anymore. Those aren't skills that are as irrelevant now. But the media forms old and new, that doesn't mean we can't learn something from the way newspapers were laid out. That doesn't mean that we can't learn something from the elements and using that above the fold kind of metaphor inside of web pages as we have kids create messages there. So there's lots of opportunities based on the information that you're trying to accomplish. Now, I want to share with you some statistics, and I find these fascinating. And one of the things that you're going to notice that if you spend any time on YouTube, you know much about YouTube. These stats are woefully out of date. Okay, 2 billion views a day? No, not so much anymore. 24 hours of video uploaded every minute? No. There are so many elements that go in here. These are out of date. This is actually from 2010. Okay, now let me tell you the reason why I bring this up. It's that second to the bottom one there. More video. In 2010, more video is uploaded to YouTube in 60 days than all 3 major US networks created in 60 years. Now, if you really think about that, if you think about these massive amounts of video that were created in 2010 and then take that out 6 years, it's staggering to think about the amount of information that we are creating on a daily basis. And so if we have that massive amount of information, one of the things that we have to really think about is how do we give kids opportunities to experience being a creator as well as experience being a consumer. And so one of the things that I think about, and there's a question right now from Carrie. So Carrie, you asked, do you have any suggestions for teaching students to evaluate bias of media sources? Okay, now I think there's a lot of ways to do that, and I think that there's one of the things that I'm going to give you some resources later, but one of the things that I would really think about or have them think about is every time they read something or watch something, in this case, as we think about YouTube, every time they do that, it is going to influence what they are going to create in the future. Okay, and so that consumption of video is influencing the things that they are going to create in the future. All right, so as you think about the bias, one of the biggest things that I think we can do, and I make the connection now, and I'll come back to this at the end of my session here, but one of the things that I think we can do is help kids recognize their inherent biases in the things that they're going to create. So it's not necessarily that we need to do a gotcha with media. That we need to really think about it in terms of, okay, how are we going to fact check this or that? Still important stuff, totally. But I really want you to think about, if we are creating this video and everything that kids are watching online, I know my own son, 12 years old, spends an amazing amount of time on YouTube. Everything that he watches is influencing the things that he creates, and I see it happen every day. So if we're creating all this video, one of the things that I think is vital for educators to do is have conversations about our own biases as we create things. There are plenty of things that we read online that we're just like, nope, I don't believe that. There's not a chance I believe that. Now, whether or not we go and do anything about it or follow up on that is a different story. I really love this quote by Clay Shirky. It's from the book Here Comes Everyone. He says, the future presented by the internet is the mass amateurization of publishing, and a switch from why publish this to why not. And as you think about the ways that kids are creating media and the ways that they are literate in using media and thinking that it is that it is a bigger part of, recognizing that it is a giant part of their world, one of the things that they're talking about is publishing. And one of the things that we as educators, again, have to be talking about is, when is it appropriate to publish? Who is your audience for publishing? So this is part of that digital literacy. You have the analysis, going back to 21st P21, you have the analysis, and then you have the creation. That doesn't mean that one has to follow the other. Most of the time, we do the analysis first in education, and then we do the creation. What would happen if we created first? What would happen if we created and then went back and analyzed that in conjunction with the things that we have consumed in the past? So this why publish this to why not, it's a very real thing. And truly, I don't have an answer for it. I know that there are lots of studies and lots of people who are thinking about it, but we have more access and more ability to publish than we ever have before. One of the things that I really like, though, as I think about this, is how do we create our world? Every time that we give kids an opportunity to create, they can make something, and they're creating the world around them. And media, and I keep going back to this creation, because media is such, we have the ability to create so quickly and easily now that we really have to have conversations around media literacy. So how do we give kids opportunities to create their world? So one of the things, I don't know, I'm not going to play this video, but as you think about this, just this whole session, if you haven't seen Gary Brolsma and his Numa video, this was one of the first viral videos. Back in, circa 96, 97, he basically sat in front of his webcam one night and sang, did a lip sync to this Numa song and put it out online. Okay? Shortly after that, it went viral, and there were so many people who were thinking about it in terms of participating in the work. And so Henry Jenkins talks about this as participatory culture. And he basically says that this new media explosion makes it possible for the average consumer to archive, annotate, appropriate, and recirculate media content in powerful new ways. So now YouTube has helped with that, and this media explosion has helped with that, this participatory culture. And so what happens is you have videos like these, and you can click on these links later and watch them if you want, but you have videos like these where people are, to a certain extent, paying homage to Gary by remixing his video. Now, are there some people just straight up making fun of him? Sure. Are there some people who want to put their own twist on it? Sure. But the thing is you are participating in the culture and the work that has happened around you when you are creating those viral videos. And really, one of the biggest examples of this participatory culture was the Ice Bucket Challenge that was sweeping the United States. If you're in the States, that was sweeping the United States a few years ago, where everybody was dumping ice water on their head. That is participatory culture. Now, there was a mission behind it, and there was a reason behind it, but analyzing that as a media form is an absolutely valid thing to do. Why did this become a national phenomenon in the States? Because Michael Wesch talks about that media is not just content, and it's not just the tools for communication. It's both of those things put together. And I love, 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 love these last two lines. Media mediate human relationships. When media change, human relationships change. As you think about the media that you have consumed over time and the media that you have brought to your classroom, think about those two lines. Media mediate human relationships. When media change, human relationships change. How has our media and the way that the way that we access information changed the way that we approach each other? If you ask kids that question, it is fascinating what you get, because they are engulfed in media in so many different ways. Maybe that's on a mobile device, maybe it's on a laptop. It's hard to say. There's lots of pieces, but that's why it's so much more important to have these conversations. And these conversations can't be just events. They can't be things that happen once in a while. Maybe the librarian does it. Nope. Let's have teachers, classroom teachers, just talk about the way they use media. Being transparent, that's going to go a long way with kids. So as you think about this again, media literacy really has to do with those two pieces, the analysis and the production. One does not have to come before the other. Media literacy incorporates both of those. So if you have kids that are super excited to create, let them produce. If you have kids that are far more analytical and want to think about it and understand it, go ahead with the analysis. Know your kids. That's the key behind this whole thing. And as you go through and you're talking about media literacy, this gives you the opportunity to talk about how to analyze a myriad of different things, whether that's the lighting, whether that's how the storyboard, what the story arc is, who the audience is, what's their purpose behind their message, why they are actually putting this message out into the world. Is it valid to put them out in the world? So those are just some things to think about and have conversations with your kids about. The digital age piece of this has brought so much more options into the conversation. When I used to talk about media literacy, I talked about it in kind of a very narrow point of view because I could. Because that's the way the world was kind of working then. But the digital age media literacy, things have changed. I don't know if you've noticed, because right now you're on an entire conference of 24 hours of Google goodness based on being able to connect over the internet. Okay? There is media literacy that you can practice throughout this entire day. As you think about the ways that the presenter is communicating his information, the way that the presenter has crafted her slides, and what images or texts they are choosing to incorporate into those are all media literacy pieces that are totally relevant in this digital age. So, very quickly, I just want to talk about some of the new ways that stories are being created now. One of the tools that I really like these days is Tour Builder. It is a Google product that is in conjunction with Google, and it's using contextual maps in order to create stories inside of kind of like people used to do with Google Earth, with Google Lit Trips. A lot of those lit trips are being kind of ported over now to Google Tour Builder, and it's super simple, gives kids opportunities to create in so many ways. And these are stories that we would not be able to create without technology and without tools that are available that allow us to incorporate multiple modes of media into one specific tool. An example there is this one called Marching for Freedom. And that is, it's based on a book. The link is right there. You can see, you can go and peruse that at your leisure. Another one that I want to just, if you haven't seen this, I really encourage you to. It is called Snowfall by the New York Times. It's a few years old now, but the link that's there will get you there. This is a fascinating, if you look at it from a media literacy point of view, it is a fascinating study on the ways that you can pull media into a traditional newspaper article. It incorporates video, it incorporates animations, it has lots of stuff to it, as well as text. And so as you think about that, and as you think about how could I use this type of a text, I anticipate us seeing more of this type of a text in the future, because it gives us the ability to expand what media is. Now, looking at this, there are a ton of different ways that you can incorporate media literacy conversations. Another one is called Nightwalk. This is from Google. It's g.co/Nightwalk. And basically in Marseille, this is it's kind of like using Street View that has clickable spaces inside of it, where you can, like it says, explore the sounds, streets, and soul of the city. It gives you the ability to get more information based on the exploration of this space. It really is fascinating, and from a media creation point of view, I think that the Snowfall is more of an analysis one. This I would look at in terms of a creation point of view. Why did they make the choices they made as they were creating this piece? Why did they use the particular sounds and images that came as a part of that? It really is fascinating. I do encourage you to look at that. And then finally, I just want to share, and Carrie, this is the information that I was telling you about earlier. There are lots of resources for media literacy online. Two of them that I like a lot and that I encourage teachers to use and find and think about are, first of all, Common Sense Media. They have an entire just an amazing amount of resources on media literacy and the way that we use media now in this digital age. And then secondly, the Center for Media Literacy also is really all around media literacy. You still have, going back to the the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, they have good information there. You also have information from the Aspen Institute, and namely, there are plenty of places out there, but as I work with teachers, these are the places that I send them first, depending on where they are and what they're looking for. So Carrie, I hope that's helpful for you. I'm going to look at the questions, if there's any questions here. Let's see. So one of the questions, I think, Carrie, I did my best to answer yours. So Carrie, also, with respecting copyright as a part of digital citizenship, do you have any suggestions for finding images, media that students can use legally? So yes, what I would encourage you to do is go and look for the usage rights inside of Google Images. The Google image search, just in the top, after you do an image search, there's going to be a drop down that says tools, and then you can go in and work around, basically determine what usage rights there are. I think that's a great space to do that. The other place that I would tell you to look is if you are a Google Apps school district and you use Google Drive, the images that are inside of Google Drive, when you go and insert an image and do a search, you will be able to use images from that right there. So Kathy put in the Media Education Lab with Renee Hobbs. Great information there. How is media and technology? How is media and technology different when we talk about gadgets? Is media refers also to some technology gadgets? So media is basically, the gadgets are the ways that you interact with the media. The media is actually the messaging and maybe the mode of getting that information across. So don't confuse technology and gadgets, mobile devices, tablets, phones, whatever, with media. That is a delivery device as opposed to the actual media. Now, it's a great creation tool, but it is a delivery device in a great many ways. So Serena, in your opinion, what is maybe the role of journalists when it comes to media literacy? That's a big question, and I think there is a lot of information out there around that. I think journalists are struggling right now. They're trying to figure out what they do, how they do, and the way that it's going to work. I think that the role of journalists is that they have to be responsible. They have to understand that they are influential in this space. I will put more answers to questions. My time is just about up. I am going to put more answers to any questions that are there inside of the question bank. I thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon. I hope you have a great rest of your Education On Air sessions, and I wish you well. If you would like to connect, please feel free. I'm pretty easy to find online, but here's my contact information, and I would be super happy to help you think through media literacy in your classroom with kids. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.